Hello and welcome to another video tutorial. So previously you should have looked at my first video, intro, setup, and overview. And this video is the next video in the L2S video series, subject structure. So I'm going to explain the subjects more in depth. So this app is divided up by subjects. It's not divided up by modules when you study. It's into subjects. So we have general, safety, rules of the road, navigation, nav problems, chart plot. On engine side, you're going to have generals, safety, electricity, motors, steam, and gas turbines. And I've divided it up into sub-subjects, the subjects and sub-subjects. So there's only one sub-subject here for generals under third mate license because we're studying for the third mates. But if we go to safety, there's actually deck and stability. Now, the third mate license doesn't study for a stability test. They just study for safety. And in that safety test is going to be deck safety questions and stability questions. So yeah, I divide up these sub-subjects because there's just a huge chunk of questions that are stability in the safety questions. Same goes for engine license. And their generals, there's a huge chunk that's refrigeration questions. And then there's a huge chunk that's management questions. So I divided up that way on the engine side. So if you go say you go into stability and you go to test, you're only going to study for module 112, which is just deck safety. So that should actually be over in the other side, but it doesn't really matter. Under test, it doesn't really matter what's side you're studying for. It's just going to be based off what module you're studying for. If you get it here, the only thing it matters, the sub-subject matters the most, is the study bank and the elimination. So if I go into study bank and I go to my license questions, these are all the questions that pertains to my license. That is just stability questions. And you can see that here in these little categories: kg limitations, stability, ballasting, construction, and damage control. If I go back over to deck and then I go to study bank, you'll see that everything's more about safety, abandoned ship procedures. So yeah, so technically you have about 6,000, a little over 6,000 questions to study for in the study and safety. And so if I go to test here, it's going to be the same thing, module 112. So anything you pick here is going to be over module 112. So it's highly recommended that before you going into test mode, that you, especially for just one sub-subject, is that you study all the sub-subjects and then test. So that's my explanation of kind of our subjects here. There's one more thing, and I mentioned it before, and that's your question stats. So remember back here, you could reset your question stats. Question stats are actually separate from your study progress, and the question stats kind of show up down here into subject stats. So let's say I'm like studying for multiple profiles, which I don't think anyone would study for a third mate's license and an AB license. But if that were so, and there's one question that shows up on both exams, both licenses or endorsements, the question stats are going to be the same. So how many times I've missed that question will still show up for both sides. So that's just kind of the explanation for subject stats. All right, so the next video, that's my explanation of the subjects, and the next video will be all about study bank.